hydrant going in the corner. Light a couple candles under it.
Well, I hit the streaming button. Now I gotta make sure it's hitting the server. Alright, we're live.
We're live. Welcome, everyone. Recording. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it? Whether we're young or old.
Here comes the candles to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome. And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
I'm operating on I got a dead channel on my mixing board, so I fixed that, but now none of my settings are right, so I sound weird to myself, which is always a good thing. The old dead channel on the mixer. All right, yeah, that's interesting. But anyway, here we are. I was just there not too long ago. Matter of fact, just a matter of days ago, I was in Iowa.
Feels good to be back in Michigan, does it?
Very different here. It's not as hot and humid in Michigan, so I was.
Yeah, remember they filmed Cedar Rapids in Ann Arbor, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but here we're all back home again, so we made it safely.
Well, that's good. At least I'm not talking to a ghost right now.
Yeah, we're not talking through time.
Timecast.
Yeah, but we had a good time. Shot some guns. That was fun.
Yes, your SIG P228 was the talk of the town. Basically,
Yeah.
everyone just like, what one do you like to shoot? And everyone's like, the SIG. And I'm like, which one? I was like, we know which one.
Well, yeah, I like the SIG P228 till I looked up the price, and I was like, well, I won't be doing that.
Well, I can always give it on loan for, a couple of years. I don't shoot it nearly enough probably to justify actually owning it. I could probably rent it out for a while, make a little money on it.
I don't really shoot enough to justify owning any guns either, but I used to. But that's something else that's like, oh, what am I going to do with $100 this week? Well, I don't know. Ammo seems to be cheap and widely available again, so that'll change. But yeah. So we did that. That was fun.
Yeah, I got to shoot to your Kimber Eclipse 45, so that was nice.
Yeah, that's a nice gun.
Shot well, and then that had way more kick than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Of course, you shot the plus P rounds, right?
Yeah, I actually thought it had a pretty good kick. My dad's Kimber I didn't like as well as his Kimber, so I don't know what the difference was between the two. But
Was it full sized?
I think it was. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I've shot it because he had me shoot a couple of his 45s, and one was a Glock, and I hated the Glock. I just don't like Glocks as much as my father does. He loves them. He thinks they're the best guns ever, and I just don't. I don't know. There's nothing sexy about a Glock. It's like bringing home a plain Jane to your mom, instead of a hot broad or an ugly one. It's in between, the middle ground.
When they came out in the late 70s, they were futuristic, but they have not changed much since then.
Oh no, except for the whole. They have gotten a few more design things, but not really anything that grand. Now, after the generation 3, they started looking a little bit different, but yeah, they're still pretty much the same old.
Yeah,
you can do a lot of shit with them though. So.
No, yeah, you can swap out just about everything for anything you want, but the same time. I'm not that type of guy. I like stock. Like, or at least
Well,
that's what I can afford.
I tend to, if I can, I'll buy the biggest. I like full-size guns. I don't like those like, ooh, a compact 357. Oh, that sounds like murder. That's hands in a vice and just cranking her down.
Yeah, my dad's new compact carry Glock that was tiny as hell. It had like a 9-round clip on it, which I was surprised. I mean, it was only 9 mil, but like fired off like 3 or 4 rounds with both hands on it. Then I'd have to like readjust, put my hand over it again, and then fire another 3-4 rounds. And like, okay, for reposition the last rounds, I was like, yeah, I'm not a fan of tiny guns either. Just don't fit well with fat guy hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a belly gun. I have my 38 for that, and that's accurate to. Well, I showed you guys on the range when I moved the target like 3 feet away. I said, "This is really all a handgun's good for." We were hitting the shit out of it. We were shooting from our waist and everything. It's like, yeah, that's what a gun's designed to do.
Yeah, we're shooting like with not aiming down sights, just holding the gun up from your hip.
Yeah, which you can't do that on indoor gun ranges where the people get mad as hell at you. It's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to blow my other hand off. I have no interest in doing that, but it just looks dangerous. It's not.
Well, yeah, you feel like the gas exiting the gun when you shoot it that close to you.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't doing it as crazy close as I've been told, because I was actually shown how to do that, because it just tears your shirt apart. Eventually it'll get your shirt, because when you're just like, that's like a technique where I'm just getting it barely clearing the holster and starting to fire. It's like point shooting is what they call it.
Yeah.
That's what the guys drilled us on. So that's what I do. Because like I said, if you're ever in a situation, and none of us ever probably will be, but if you think you got to pull a gun out on somebody, chances are they're going to be close. You're not going to have a lot. You're not going to be like, hold on, sir. Assume that, okay, I got the modified Weaver. I'm ready. Attack. No, it's just, it never happens that way. So it'd be nice. Only cops get that luxury where they're like, okay, I'm bringing my gun out. I'm at you sideways if they want to rob you or something. Yeah, and if people want to rob me, it's like, here's my wallet, take it. I'll have all those credit cards canceled in like 15 minutes, so go ahead. That's why I don't carry large sums of money with me. It's like, yeah, they took $40, but now I don't have to go to court, so and defend myself.
I mean, now they always ask for your cell phone and shit too. So I mean, you'll have to run to a payphone. I mean, wait, like go run home. Or...
What do you mean now they ask for your cell phone?
No, well, I mean when they rob you, they get your cell phone, your wallet, and all that stuff. So you're not like gonna call the credit card company in like 2 minutes. And
that's what they do in Detroit. They'll just come up to you and stick a gun in your face, keys, cell phone, and wallet. But you can walk into any store and just call people.
Yeah.
Oh no, all my contacts are my phone. I don't know how to call any number. But the cloud.
No, the thing that gets real sketchy is when they're like, get in your car, we're going somewhere. That's when it's decision time. It's like, okay.
Yeah, supposedly somebody.
Hope they don't put their seatbelt on and hit the gas and then slam on the brakes. But most people don't. Most people that are robbing you are scared as cats, so they don't want to deal with anything. They just want to get their dope money and go. Because what do most people have on them? $20. I mean, that's a huge risk for, especially in today's world where almost everyone seems to have a gun now. It's like that's a huge, massive risk. What was the Chicago tally over the 4th weekend? I heard it was up there.
I don't know.
So it was like 100 people shot, 17 people killed, something like that.
Everyone had fun.
Yeah, everyone. Now, this was your first year of South Carolina fireworks or whatever.
Oh, just legal fireworks.
Yeah, you
That
could
was
have
like-
all the
It's
fireworks.
like South Carolina. Like, what the fuck's going on in South Carolina?
Well, it was always because when we lived in Arkansas, we had 4th of July down there. Dad went to some fireworks stand. We just bought shit that was like insane. It was just like so powerful and big, and it was like, oh, they've never had laws down there against that stuff. But all the northern states, you couldn't get shit like that for a long time. And now you can, except almost anywhere but Maine and, like, of course, Massachusetts. But
Well, somebody was saying like there's the. Cause I forgot to ask Matt yesterday when I saw him because they said they were setting off lanterns at his wedding next weekend, and somebody was saying like the lanterns they sell here are like the most dangerous things you can buy in Iowa just because of the sheer fire hazard of it. Because you just set them off and they go up in the air, then they go off and they just spread fire everywhere. It's basically like a giant incendiary bomb for the most part. It's like, yeah, I guess that does sound pretty dangerous, especially in a residential area with tar roofs. It's like-
I think the ones we set off, like the paper they're made out of doesn't burn, and the only way they come down is if the fire goes out. But yeah, I mean, if it's exceptionally dry and just a bunch of hot ashes on the ground, there's wind, yeah, it'll ignite something, but it's not been that dry yet.
No, it's been pretty wet so far over here too. So
Boy, out west they're getting fucked. It's like 120 degrees in Phoenix again.
Cooking eggs on the asphalt there.
Well, you're almost into slow barbecue at that point. Those are the temperatures you can make brisket. You just slow burn it. Sad people had pictures of tires melting off cars and trash melting, and it's like, yeah, you live in a fucking desert. Get out of there. But yeah, it's exceptionally hot there right now. Not so bad here. Or really, it wasn't too bad in Iowa either.
No, I mean, I think the one day was really hot. We were like inside all day.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it was the day we went out shooting because I felt like it was hot as shit. But then again, I haven't really been outside.
It was like 90.
We got it in just in time because as soon as we left, it started raining like really bad.
Yeah, we didn't even make it home. It was pouring.
Yeah, so I guess me being a pussy and feeling lightheaded paid off.
It's not you being a pussy. It's your premonition is coming on. Oh, I feel like a pussy. We're in danger.
What's going on? Andrew's feeling like a pussy. Shit.
Gotta get the fuck out.
Where is it coming from? The attack.
Well, so I hope Grayson had a good time in Iowa. It seemed like he was pretty cool with firing guns, but before that he wasn't really talkative. But
He's not really super talkative under any circumstances. So.
But then again, he has aged a little bit since I seen him last because I, for some reason, thought he'd be a little bit younger than he was, but I totally forgot.
No, he's
what his age is.
15. Yeah, he's
Because the last time I saw him, I think was when Common came back from his Marine drill.
Yeah.
Last time.
Yeah,
That
that
was,
was-
God, how many years ago now? Like 2, 3.
From drill or from boot
For,
camp?
for your first PT in San Diego, like the first time
Boot
you went
camp.
out there.
Boot leave?
Camp, yeah.
I was here on boot leave. That was like 4 years ago,
Oh, 4? Jeez.
2012.
Okay, so yeah, it's been that long. So,
So
yeah.
well, I guess 5 coming up this year.
Yeah, that would be. Oh, that was 2 plants ago for me. So. But yeah, he seemed to enjoy it. I mean, yeah, he's very quiet most of the time anyway.
No,
Even when he's enjoying himself, he's pretty quiet. So
no regular teenager fare.
yeah, he's 15 years old. So he's,
So great, hang out with 3 adults and a bunch of guns. This is gonna suck.
where's this going? Well, like he has friends at school, and I know he has friends on the football team, but he never goes anywhere or wants to. It's like, because I've asked him before, it's like, do you want to go hang out with your friends? He's like, no. He says, because someone will bring out weed, I'll get uncomfortable, and I don't like being around that. And I was like, and he's like, or people are going to be drinking, and he's like, I don't like to be around that. I was like, okay. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, that sounds like everything that happened when I was your age, but I'm not going to encourage that kind of behavior either. So, okay, don't do that. He has lots of things he doesn't like. So doesn't like drinking, doesn't like pot, which that's good for a 15-year-old. nothing good that comes out of that.
No, not really.
He likes girls except when they talk too much. Okay.
So he doesn't like girls.
No. I mean, he doesn't like them in
just the dead ones.
Doesn't like them in groups. Yeah, he's got a necro fantasy. I need you to be still, like really still. It's like where your lips turn blue. But that's there's a lot of different 15-year-olds I've met and teenagers I've met in the last couple of years. Some of them are very adult. Some of these guys almost seem like, oh, this guy's had almost as much life experience as I have. Like, this guy's ready for a beer and a job. He's a fucking teenager. And then some of them are...
He's got a kid, too.
Yeah. And then some of them are like super childlike. Like, I like Pokemon. It's like, okay, really, dude? Okay. I'm a level 4 elf. It's okay. All right. So there's all different kinds.
And you're level 99 virgin. Everybody knows this.
That's my favorite was when Joe Rogan was with the Sasquatch guys. And everyone's like, what stands out to you most about those guys? He goes, oh, dude, that is a pussy desert when you're out in the woods. That's what Joe Rogan said. And I was thinking, like, oh, he's going to say something like, well, they seem or offer some insight. And he was like, no, dude, just pussy desert. Just. And I didn't realize, like, some of those guys are my age doing that shit. It's like, what? I always assumed that was a young man's game looking for Sasquatch.
No, it's between all the documentaries and, like, every 5 or 10 years or some, National Geographic or Discovery Channel special about finding Bigfoot or...
Well, there's a whole show about it.
Oh, there is now? Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's how much I care about finding Bigfoot. But
well, there was, like, a Finding Monsters show where it was kind of like a different monster to look for, but there is just, like, a Sasquatch hunter show, right?
Yeah. Someone will be tapping on the... You'll hear, like, a sound like someone whacking a tree with a piece of wood. Guy's like, I think we got us a Squatch, boys. That.
Or some human being whacking a tree.
Or your buddy whacking the fucking piece of wood.
Oh, God. No, it just reminds me of, like, Penn and Teller's bullshit show where they had, like, the cryptozoologist people on there, and they're all people that they're late 40s or like early 60s, like those type of old people that are still like looking for Sasquatch and the Loch Ness Monster and all these people that are just like spewing bullshit out of their mouth every 5 seconds and just like all this like vague, unsubstantiated, like nothing evidence. Like, look at this rock. Nobody could have moved this rock except for Nessie, and it's like, or water.
The Loch Ness Monster did this. Or millions of gallons of water. Shit, I can see millions of gallons of water here. What I don't see is a prehistoric fucking dinosaur thing.
It's able to elude all of science.
It's sonar invisible. It's like, if that really can do that, why aren't all the British submarines completely invisible to sonar? Because they would be researching that shit and finding out how to make it happen. That was real.
I don't know, but like, yeah, it's surprising how many older people. I mean, I guess it's good to believe in something in a way, but at the same time,
yeah, everyone has their midlife crisis, and sometimes you just need something to believe in.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I've always, because I'll watch. I like the alien stuff. I don't believe it, but I like it because there's a weird passion and energy around it that seems appealing. I mean, I would never go hang out all night somewhere and look for a fucking UFO, but I like to watch that stuff sometimes, and I because Grayson's like, "Why do you watch this?" I said, "Wouldn't this be cool if it was true?" He's like, Dad, it's not true. I said, I know it's not true, but imagine how exciting it would be if it was. It's like that would be just, or like magic or monsters or any of that stuff. Like if that was real, think how that would change how we understand the universe. And he's like, but it's not real. I said, I know, but you just got to escape sometimes. Because sometimes just the cold, hard math of life is just depressing. But that's why it's called escapism, not reality. You can venture into that realm for a little while, but you always have to come back. That's why I like to read science fiction and stuff, because it's like, oh, this will never happen, but it's a cool idea. Or if it does, I'll be long dead. You know, and by long dead, I mean like 20 years from now. And when all the real magic starts to happen, I'll be closing my casket like, this is all he was waiting for. But yeah, they sometimes we go back and forth about that. It's like, Dad, this is stupid. Why are you watching this? I don't know. It's fun. You know this isn't real, right? Yeah, I know this isn't real. But
you need to start watching wrestling.
Yeah, just start watching wrestling. Some people I know really enjoy that. I don't understand it, but I know it's escapist. I know they don't think it's true, but
yeah.
Everyone has their. I mean, sports in a way is that too. It's like you're seeing the only people in the world that can play at this level. This is it. You'll never do this.
Well, there's a weird attachment to sports because of the whole city angle, where it's like our cities are fighting each other, and whoever wins is the best city.
Yeah, that would almost be true if there wasn't a draft and half these come from somewhere else.
So remember, Oakland is the best city in the world again.
It's like whenever the Red Wings win the Stanley Cup, it's like, it's victory for our country. It's like half the guys on that team are Canadians and Russians. It's just who's that a victory for? But it's important.
Hockey Town, USA.
Oh, it's big around here.
What isn't Detroit?
Hey, if the Lions could get their shit together, it would literally be the best sports city in the world.
Or the Pistons, or the Tigers.
Well, the Tigers were World Series.
Hey, they've lost a bunch of World Series.
Yeah, in the fucking game several times. I don't think they're allowed to win because the last time they won in '82, I think the other half of the city burnt down. People get excited in Detroit.
They just want to be the Buffalo Bills.
Does Detroit have a WNBA team?
I'm sure.
Probably.
I was just trying to think of other major league teams. I was like, I'm sure for like the WNBA team.
The Detroit Blowers.
The Ramrods. The Detroit Queens.
Well, because I mean, the WNBA shockingly is somehow still around. Not because women don't have the right to play basketball, just because their viewership and everything's so low.
Well, I don't think it's really a matter of that anymore, because I think people compare the viewerships between the NBA and the WNBA. It's like, yeah, obviously the WNBA is getting clobbered, but like, you have to realize that that stadium is getting utilized where it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So.
No, when I say get their shit together, I mean at least make a playoff that isn't a wild card thing, because all the other Detroit sports teams usually will make the playoffs intermittently, but the fucking Lions, no.
I mean, Pistons beat the fucking LA Lakers at their top.
Yeah, all the other teams.
A couple of years
all the
ago.
other teams do good.
A couple of years, like 10 years ago, but.
And the players are very accessible in Detroit. You know who they are and where they are.
There's only 5 houses left, so you know where they live. No, sorry.
Yeah, but the training facilities are downtown.
Well, when you see a gold-plated Lexus drive by, you can be pretty sure that's one of the athletes or one of the Arab dudes that really owns a lot of gas stations. Either way, you don't know which way it's going. I mean, I saw Jim Harbaugh getting gas. Now, I know he's the coach of the Wolverines, but it's like, oh, that's Jim Harbaugh. I didn't say anything to him. I just knew who he was. Wasn't going to run up to him like, hey. But it's like, yeah.
Hey, Jim, I lived in Indiana where you're quarterback.
Yeah. We have a connection, right? How's the most
Do you want a
expensive?
hand job? I mean, can I get an autograph?
How's the most expensive team in college football doing? I'm not implying anything. But yeah, it's all local around here. I mean, it isn't, but it is. I'm doing another furniture refinishing product. I'm refinishing the sewing machine that me and Dad brought up.
Oh. So the reason I thought you meant like you're huffing wood finish or something. It's
Well,
like-
yeah, kind of.
Well, it's like a really old style Singer sewing machine.
It's not a
where-
Singer.
Oh, it's not a Singer?
It's something. No, it's not a Singer. It's some other brand. It's basically
Does it have an S in front of it? So I swear that thing had an S on it or something.
no, it does because the Singer ones it's all cast into the metal where it'll say Singer. This one doesn't have that anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Not sure what this is because the machine head itself is actually I haven't really worked on that. I got to try to get some of the layers of dust and oil off of it so I can read the name, but it doesn't have any of the Singer marks. I think it's an American manufacturing one. It's
Oh,
either
okay.
a Wisconsin or a White. I mean, there were so many people that made those treadle sewing machines. There was like 400 different manufacturers. So
But it's not electrical powered. It's like
Yeah,
this little
foot
foot
pedal.
thing. I hit the foot and power it.
Because that means it's on its own wooden table and it's got its own It's...
Well,
Yeah.
that was our microwave desk for like 20 years.
yeah, surprisingly, the finish. I mean, there was some veneer underneath it. Weirdly, like where the table folds out, like
Yeah.
that's veneer, but there's no veneer anywhere else on it. It's all hardwood. So, and there's a few pieces that I just had to replace because it's like, oh, I can drill dowel rods into these and try to put them together, or I can just buy new pieces of wood. So there's a few new pieces of wood there, but really it's just stripping off varnish that's that old has proved to be a unique challenge. But it is coming off. It's down to bare wood now. So, and then I took the metal base and power sprayed it. And there was a lot more rust on that than I thought there was. Then I took a knotted wheel to it with my DA, my orbital, and pretty much knocked all the old paint off and got it down to metal. And then I put some primer sealer on it. So then I'm going to paint it. It's just going to be black, but
Yeah, I mean, they're mostly cast iron black legs half the time anyway. So.
yeah. But all the mechanisms work, and if I could find out what size the leather belt is, I could probably make the actual sewing machine work too, because all the parts are there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fun. It's fun to work with stuff that old, because I took all the fixtures off and sonic cleaned the metal knobs and everything, because there was just all they did was they just put shellac over everything. Like even the knobs, like they put us all together as bare wood, and then they just stained it and shellacked it, and or whatever they put on it to seal it. So it was like all over the knobs and stuff. So I cleaned those in a sonic cleaner, so I got it right back down to bare metal, and so I repainted those black. So it look pretty cool when it's done. And then Dad got me all those cool, like those oscillating sanders and stuff that they can really get into the grooves and get everything out. So it should be done in another week.
Huh, okay.
If I keep working on it. I got to mow the yard, or I'm going to get the
What are you going
homeowners.
to do with it? Is it just going to be a display piece or what?
It's going to be the desk next to my chair.
Okay.
Yeah, those things are considered like industrial steampunk just by their nature, and that's something I can have in the house, because that is the most common product left of the Industrial Revolution, is those mass-produced pedal-powered sewing machines, because everyone wanted one, even though they were like a third of your income back then.
And make it back on savings on clothes.
That was, I forget when those came out. I mean, they go back to like the Civil War, but that one's not that old. But they've had like human-powered sewing machines for a long time. I don't even know when they electrified them, because I think that design hung on for a long time, because there was really no need to change that. Because they have like demonstrations on using them on YouTube. It's like, this is how these stitched, and it's not like modern machine stitching, but it's pretty damn close and it's pretty damn fast. And
Yeah.
if you're punching out shirts or something, it works pretty good.
My calves are wrecked.
Well, it's weird. You have to maintain a rhythm with it.
Yeah.
Because when you get good with it, what you do is you put one, this guy was showing how to use it. You put one foot completely on the stanchion, and then your second foot, you just put your heel on the floor. And that's like because you have to move with a rhythm because that thing, it's just a reciprocating arm.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of sew with a certain rhythm. You can't just press down on it and go because it'll stop halfway through the cycle because your feet will actually not be in sync with it and it'll stop it. So it's kind of interesting.
All right, do your autism nod.
Yeah, we're basically okay. We're rocking, going. We're not making eye contact. But yeah, so that was. But it all works. That cleaned up pretty nicely. I mean, considering that's set in a cabin in Missouri for 80 years. Not a place with centralized heating or cooling, so it held up pretty well. It's kind of cool to work on things that old.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people just like the bases of them. They'll just take all the wood off of them and make their own desk or whatever. Because if I could find two of them and mount a piece of wood, I'd make a new desk out of them. And then I could just sit here and pump the desk and have up to like I bought some gears when I was in Iowa. This place had some gears like this. So if I could find some old sewing machine bases, I could make them into my desk, and then something I would pump them, and it would move something with these gears. Something very dangerous and stupid that would probably get the dog's tail caught in it. But that's what you do when you have no friends. My desk.
You'll always love me, right? I'm like,
My foot powered fleshlight.
Yeah, that's what it is.
all those gears seem needless.
Yeah, my
That's
my,
just to throw off the scent. What is this? It's not a masturbation desk. That's too many gears.
What's the big swing arm do? Pay no attention.
Why do you have a Hoover hooked up to an emptied out flashlight tube? Don't ask questions.
Pedal powered Sibian machine.
Why does this rubber say Jenna Jameson on the side?
Is that still a thing? Fleshlights?
Yeah, I think they still do that. And then
I haven't heard of them going out of business, so.
I've never heard. I don't hear about them on podcasts anymore. Because that used to be where you'd hear about fleshlights. Was
What
either
Kevin Smith used to advertise them?
yeah, Kevin Smith and Joe Rogan had fleshlight.
Well, I think they just thought there's more advertisements. There's more advertisers in the podcast game, and you don't have to go down to the let's sell sex level. Similar like Mark Maron used to do Adam and Eve and stuff like that.
Right.
But he doesn't do that anymore. Now it's pretty much just all Squarespace and other things. MailChimp and shit like that.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to produce content that actually justifies sponsors. Now, can you imagine if they had to preamble the Barack Obama interview with I got to do something quick here, Mr. President. You like jerking off? You like jerking off. Get a fleshlight. You know, it's okay, Mr. President. We're ready to go.
Well, like the Giant Bomb guys have been like kind of transparent about their stuff because for a long time they were like debating what to do with the podcast because they didn't advertise on it, and then they started advertising on it. People started bitching. It's like, hey, this pays a lot of bills here so that we can do the podcast.
Yeah. It's like Joe Rogan does 12 solid minutes of advertising, but then he gives me a 3-hour podcast. Like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to complain. It's like, where else are you going to get 3 hours of entertainment for just a few minutes of advertising?
Yeah.
But there's people that will complain. You should be doing this for free, asshole. Yeah, I know.
But like one of the reasons they didn't Giant Bomb didn't advertise for a long time is that a lot of the people that would come to them about like advertising, it's like they came out of the woodwork. Like they had no problem. Like they could have had advertising and got money for it. It's just that the quality of the advertisers was very low. It was just like all sex stuff, all sketchy shit. And it was like, yeah, we're not going to advertise that to. We know who's listening to our show, and we're not going to fucking sell that shit to them. So they kind of only they kind of pick and choose what they're going to sell to their audience. Like they don't just take whatever comes their way.
Yeah. Yeah, you get some weird people out there.
But
Does your grandma have credit cards?
But with Giant Bomb, they've well, even like Mark Maron, like he's starting out, and like when he's starting out, he's like, "Is there money in this? Because like, can I make a job out of this?" So he just kind of took whatever the first advertiser that came his way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the early days of podcasting were weird. And then you got all the people on Patreon now.
Yeah.
Which I guess that works if you have a lot of fans.
Yeah.
I've never looked at marketing strategies for podcasts, but
of course not.
Yeah, why would we? But there's
let's try to find our fan base if we had one. It would be like the strangest cross section. We're not on here like pretending to be like overly emotional about things. We're not doing unboxing videos.
Hey guys, guess what we're couldn't
I
see
can bring
doing.
some couple model boxes over here. Unboxing video. Come on.
Well, what we do is essentially when people grab their phone camera and make a YouTube video of something cool that's really cool to them and that they enjoy.
Yeah.
But some of it's like, who's doing this? But then you look down and it's like got 100,000 views. It's like, well, somebody's watching this, or somebody's watching it way too much. So that's that. But anyway, yeah, furniture refinishing. It's fun. Do it.
Yeah, I might
Messy.
be doing
There's
it
a
with
lot of chemicals.
Well, I might be doing it with a orbital sander and then a dining room table set at some point. But I still got to figure out how to fix the backing on one of the chairs because it's chipped as shit and broken to hell on one of the.
Lots and lots of glue.
Well, not so much the glue. There's no pieces left to put back to it. I just have to figure out if I can like replace it with a different
Sawdust
slat
and glue.
or wood putty or what. But yeah.
I use epoxy. Epoxy is an amazing wood product because, I mean, just regular old 5-minute bond epoxy, if you've got sections of it that are rotted out, especially around screws or where things go in, you just make that, let it harden, drill a hole in it, stick the screw in, sand over it. As long as it's not visible, it's way harder than wood, and it'll bond right to wood. It's not going anywhere. So that's a trick I learned on YouTube. Because when I restored that one little sewing box that had all the hinges were just, the wood was so dry, just rotted out of them. So I just ground them out with like a Dremel tool with like a dental attachment to it. And then I put epoxy in there, set the hinges in, let her dry, and fuck, it works perfect. But that's a YouTube trick. It was this one right here. All these hinges are just epoxy down into the wood. So I don't know if anyone can see. Yeah, these things, sewing boxes. Still smells good.
Still smells like glue.
No, it's old wood. Has that old wood
I just
varnish smell.
making a getting high joke. It's like,
Yeah, some of that stripper I bought like the best stripper you can buy to get that old stuff.
Candy, she's great.
Yeah, you know it's good stripper when you open the can and you see fumes coming out of it just in clear air. It's like, oh, shit. And you put it on with a brush. And
is it better to sand the? I mean, this isn't like a really old table. It's probably like a decade old and just mass market table. But is it better to strip the old finish off of it or sand it off down to bare wood?
I do both.
Okay.
I make double sure to get it. I'll put chemical stripper on first, strip it off. let it dry, and then I'll hit it with the sander. But you can only do that with real wood. If it's got a veneer or something on it, you'll peel the veneer off using some strippers. So gotta watch that. But I'm no expert. I'm a YouTube guy.
Well, I mean, I'll probably YouTube research it a little bit too. But
Yeah.
Other than that, because otherwise, that table's gonna be sitting in my garage forever unless I make it look a lot nicer so I can sell it for some money. So otherwise, it's gonna. Yeah. I have a dining room set in my garage I'll never use.
And sit around in the garage and drink around it. I have friends over there play cards.
You're assuming two things: that I drink enough, and also that I have enough friends to fill up a dining room set.
It's always a
It's a
fantasy.
giant solitaire table. Just get a really big card set, like something that's like it's like notebook paper. It's just,
Get you one of those Bosches with a dado head on it so you can set the cards up, just dado slots in it. Just have this giant solitaire table. What are you doing? It's the world's biggest solitaire
I'm
table.
expanding my loneliness.
Or since it's technically not mine, it was dumped at my property. I could just, do or like now that I have a bigger car, I can try and put it in pieces and then drive off to Matt's house, dump it in his driveway. And drop it off.
You could put a sign out in front of the house that says $20. Leave it by the side of the road.
Yeah, I could do that.
I mean,
Get-
somebody will take
We'll
it.
get in the sketchy world of Craigslist.
I'm sure the meth house across the street will take it for free. I saw a lady we were going out to dinner at the Mexican restaurant that Colin likes. It's down here on 33rd, close to both our houses. And I'm outside putting new gutter extension on really quick because I forgot to during the rest of my chores for the day. And so I see this woman like at the end of the street just kind of looking at me through a bush. I'm like, what the fuck? And it turns out she's like stealing a bunch of flowers from one of my neighbors, like ripping them out of his garden. And then she walks down to the meth house with a handful of flowers and give them to the people in the meth house. And I was like, well, I guess that pays for her drugs for the day. It's like,
Blow
okay.
job and flowers for a hit.
Hey, bitch, you got any mums?
Like,
Bring me some mums. We can talk. Want them orange, hearty mums. Get that shit.
like
I'll
the
cut.
weird, like I didn't think adults really did that, but I guess yeah.
Oh, drug addiction will make adult. I mean, have you ever seen Two Girls, One Cup?
Yeah.
Drug addiction's a powerful thing. Make people do anything.
Drugs make shit happen.
But no, yeah, it shouldn't surprise me. I'm sure somebody will steal something out of my yard at some point. I'm surprised they already have it, considering there's a patio set, a grill, a propane tank, and a bunch of other crap usually sitting out in my yard, somebody you can just walk off with.
Now you can you shoot them from the inside of your house in Iowa, or
You can't shoot them at all in Iowa. If you shoot them and they live, then you're fucked because they'll sue you in civil court for the rest of your life savings and life earnings. And then if you shoot them and kill them, and if you don't have anybody else on property, they'll basically charge you with murder. So it doesn't matter what the fuck.
that's
goes
no
on.
good.
Yeah. Basically, you have to prove that they were a danger because you have to basically tell them, you have to give them the option to leave.
That's when
your
you
house.
That's when you go get your unregistered gun to plant on them.
But yeah,
Or you put a knife in their hand. Hey, this looks like your kitchen knives. It's like, shit, I have the same set. What the fuck? What are the chances?
They were
I
robbing
do-
me.
I actually do have, a knife that doesn't look like the rest of my knife set now because I've had.
I thought you were going to say an unregistered handgun. It's like, maybe we shouldn't talk about this. I actually do have an unregistered handgun now that you mention it.
No,
It was used to murder 3 FBI agents.
I wonder why it's unregistered. No, it just sucks because you have to give them the option to leave first before you do anything. If they don't leave, then you can shoot them. But otherwise, like literally, somebody else has to be in the house to collaborate your story. Otherwise, basically, it's like, fuck you, you didn't, do anything. But it's like, yeah, so the person that broke into my house trying to either harm me or take everything from me, I have to give them the option to politely to leave first. They have to just like, oh, I'll show you the door over here. Like, can I help you out with that TV? No, no, I don't need any help. Thank you.
Michigan's not that bad. Pretty much once they enter your house in Michigan, it's like a no man's land.
I think Texas is the only, or unless there's, I'm sure other southern states are in this tally as well, but I know Texas, you can basically gun down somebody from anywhere on your property.
Oh yeah, we're like that here too. It's changed direction here. Well, they've had so many. Michigan was where the home of the home invasion. That's where that started. Was the where the people, because they had the 3 strikes law here for so long, and people that were on their 3rd strike, well, yeah, they just rob your house and then kill everyone in the house because it's life in prison for them either way. So that's why that changed here, because they would or they tried to tie you up in the basement and rape your family. There was some heinous shit that went on here, and they were like, well, once they're in your house, yeah, it's open season. Now, I'm sure if they were a friend you were having an argument with and you emptied an entire magazine out of an AK-47, it might be seen as, wait a minute, I don't think this counts as burglary. But
what if you accidentally shoot your limo driver in the face and you try to make it look like a suicide?
I'm sure that's happened.
Yes, it has happened.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that must be referencing
Jason Williams of the New Jersey Jets. That happened, or not Jets, New Jersey Nets, when they were still in New Jersey.
How do you accidentally shoot someone in the face?
I don't know. That's Dick Cheney. He was like showing off his shotgun. And apparently, it was loaded. He shot his limo driver and killed him like dead right on the spot. And then they tried to make it look like the limo driver tried to commit suicide.
What kind of money and lawyers that guy has? He probably could have just explained it as an accident, paid off his family, and gone on to win a golden ring or whatever it is.
Well, this is like when he was out. This is after he retired.
Oh, yeah, he was probably good. He tried to hide it then. Apparently, he didn't get away with it, though, because we know about it.
I think he went to jail for that, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, you try to hide it, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, somebody.
What do you mean, obviously, you try to hide it?
No, I'm just saying, somebody shooting themselves and killing someone with a shotgun looks radically different than getting shot from a distance with a shotgun.
I mean, yeah, obviously he panicked and he saw the rest of his life in jail, and that was his only. It was like, how can we alleviate this situation?
My question was, did he fire both barrels at the same time? Because the solution might have been in the other barrel.
Murder suicide.
There's a solution in that there barrel. So you watch the movies. What have you seen in theaters lately?
I've only seen one. I saw Baby Driver. That's the only movie I've seen. Well, Wonder Woman, but that was the recent one. Was Baby Driver.
What'd you think of that?
It was good.
I hear it's got a good buzz around it.
It's much more of a technically ambitious movie than like really like a super great movie. Like, it's totally fine. It kind of, but a lot of it's like, it's almost just like a 2-hour music video in a way.
Okay.
Like, there's a lot of stuff where like things are in sequence with the music, like even like tapping on brakes and shit like that, or an opening of car doors, like it's done with the music, can't think of the right word now. It's just in symphony with the music.
In sync?
Yeah.
Synced up with music. That's kind of weird.
So it's done very well. But he made Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and there's a lot of shit like that in there too. But here, this is a bit more grounded than that. So also isn't, huh?
This isn't as esoteric as Driver.
No.
Okay.
Not exactly, no. But it's much more serious. It's probably the most serious movie he's made.
Okay.
There is like humor in it, but not as deliberate as any of his other movies.
Oh, okay.
It's much more of like a Tarantino movie. But there's a lot of good, everybody's good in it. I like Jamie Foxx's character is just like this weird kind of terrifying guy, because he's like this unhinged, like completely emotional guy who's very perceptive. So when he starts to perceive something, his immediate reaction is violence, and he's like never wrong about shit either.
He's a crazy person, but he's not really wrong.
Yeah. And John Hamm's good in it. And of course, Kevin Spacey is Kevin Spacey, so he's awesome and everything.
Yeah.
And then the main guy, like, I don't know hit from. Apparently, he was in that. Was he in that space movie? Oh no, he was in some like Heartbreak Kid movie or some shit like that.
Oh, The Problem with Our Stars or something.
I don't think it was The Fault of Our Stars. I thought that was on his IMDb, but I don't think he was the main kid in that movie. But maybe he was like
anything else. So yeah.
maybe he was some other teenager in that movie because I'm pretty sure he's not the main kid.
I think my wife said like the girl was in something else, like another teenage.
Oh, she might have been in that. Yeah, she might have been in The Fault of Our
I
Stars.
think she was. Yeah. But
Okay.
Other than that, I was like, I don't remember him from anything. So and that was pretty much like the acting cast besides his stepdad, or foster dad.
Yeah. And there's a lot of cool chase scenes. And a lot of cool just visual flair.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting when you get to the end of the movie and it's like, why would somebody call a movie this? This seems like box office poison.
Yeah.
And then you find out, oh, there's a song actually called fucking Baby Driver.
I did not know that.
It's like some song like out of the 50s or some shit. It's like, yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't research it, but like it plays
Or
at
they
the
made
end
a
of the
song
movie.
to sound like from the 50s and then go along with the movie.
No, that's true. Could have already done that.
So this guy directed Shaun of the Dead, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hot Fuzz
Okay.
and World's End.
And World's End, yeah.
Which I didn't really like, but
You got to complete the Coronetta trilogy. Is that the Coronetta
yeah,
trilogy?
it's Coronetta trilogy. Yeah.
Because that's like a ice cream treat. And...
Well, I was really looking forward to that movie. It disappointed me, I guess. It was either too much high expectations or something.
Yeah, it just kind of seemed like It just kind of seemed like an episode of Doctor Who rather than, and it didn't seem that it wasn't as funny as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, because Hot Fuzz and.
But I was also kind of disappointed in Hot Fuzz because I also thought Hot Fuzz wasn't that funny, but it was still kind of just cool.
Yeah,
Mostly, I just really like Shaun of the Dead and Space is pretty good, and I really like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But I really like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World mostly for its aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like it does a lot of shit, and it does it pretty well. It's not necessarily like I really care about anyone in those stories because those movies are just full of assholes. That movie's just full of assholes, but it's visually it's like amazing. But yeah, he's also supposed to. He apparently wrote an amazing script for Ant-Man that they never made.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they threw his script away and made a different Ant-Man movie, but people say like he was going to write and direct it, and apparently they got rid of it. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, I don't know. There's just some other things he's written that he hasn't directed, but I can't think of what they are.
I want to say. Yeah, I'll remember probably after the podcast. But it was like,
Didn't he direct one of the trailers in that Tarantino thing?
Possibly.
The Grindhouse thing?
I can't think of what it
Rob
was.
Zombie did the werewolf.
Oh, Nazi
Nazi
werewolf,
SS one.
whatever. Yeah.
Thanks Killing or whatever it was. Like, what was that one?
That was the guy who did Cabin Fever. I can't remember his name.
And then the third. Can't remember the third trailer. I don't remember the third trailer.
Well, it depends what region you were in, because some people got Hobo with a Shotgun,
Oh.
but that wasn't in everyone. And then there was Machete, and that was Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know if he directed that trailer or not. He directed the movie. I'm not sure if he directed the trailer or not, because he was already directing a movie for Grindhouse. But yeah, those are the two that got made. Was Machete and Hobo with a Shotgun. So. Because now on Sci-Fi they just have a Grindhouse TV show. It's just an anthology series, which the commercials kind of look interesting because there's like a thing, where it's like a world where cars run on blood.
Okay.
So you got people murdering other people just so they can keep their cars running because there's no gasoline anymore.
It still begs the question where that spot in the trailer for that TV episode where the guy's like, "What do you got run under there?" Like, why would you approach that car? You know they run on blood. This is retarded. But no, it's, I don't know. I kind of hope I always kind of wanted Rob Zombie to do his Nazi work SS movie, just because all the other ones besides Thanksgiving one got made, but it's just like,
oh, did it? Or Thanksgiving?
No, it didn't get made. I'm just saying, besides that one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that one didn't get made as well, so it's, it'd be 3 for 4 at that point if they did it. So maybe they'll make them into TV episodes as,
I don't know, 2 Machete movies, so.
Yeah.
I never saw the second one, though.
Yeah.
They made a second Machete movie?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's like Machete Kills or something like that.
Yeah, it has, like, fucking Robert De Niro in it and a bunch of other fucking...
Yeah.
It's just as weird and...
I mean, they also made a second Sin City movie that I never watched either, so.
That one I like a lot better than Machete. It's still not as good as the first Sin City, but it actually... If you read the comic books, it actually sets up the same as the comic books because the second movie is like the prequel to the first movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because like half those characters are dead, so it's...
Yeah.
But I think mostly that, because that one was co-directed by Robert Rodriguez and he did the original comic book.
Oh, Frank Miller.
Yeah, it was directed by Frank Miller, or co-directed.
I'm still waiting for that. What does Grayson want to see? Oh, Dunkirk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
War from the Planet of the Apes, and then the City of a Thousand Worlds.
Oh, yeah, Valerian.
Yeah. Waiting for that.
I want that to be good.
Well, no, you want the Dark Tower to be good, but we know that's not going to happen.
yeah. Of course I want that to happen, but I have no...
Well, that's going to be broken up into parts for a movie, though, like at least 2 or 3.
I have
it looks like they've changed the story, because even Stephen King said, that's not the story I wrote, but I like the movie, because I knew they were going to change that story.
Well, I heard there was going to be something like there's going to be like a movie every now and then, like every 3 years, and then there was supposed to be like a TV show at the same time, but I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that thing's been in development hell for 15 years, so.
And speaking of movies that probably aren't going to be good, the Han Solo prequel is probably going to be a giant pile of garbage on delivery. But
well, I don't know. Ron Howard took it over, so I don't know.
Well, well, apparently, like almost like 3/4 of that movie's already been shot, so if they really fuck up the editing, it could be really bad. But
well, no, because they've had like 5 different people at the helm of it at this point.
Yeah, but they didn't. They landed on them and they went into production. That's a whole different thing. And they got through like 3/4 of it, and I'm not sure what the rest of the 1/4 of it is. Like, is it just reshoots? If the producers hated it and it's like, oh, we're gonna reshoot all this shit and then just fucking ruin the movie, I don't know, but
yeah, it doesn't sound.
But yeah, I mean, like, I don't think Ron Howard could really get in there and like fuck it up too much unless it was already fucked to begin with, really. But I mean, those guys don't make bad stuff, so.
Well, I know they probably won't release anything that's gonna be shit because that's gonna taint their whole brand. But at the same time, I don't trust Ron Howard with a goddamn thing.
Well, I mean, the producers fired him, and they apparently had some argument that they couldn't get over with, and the producers just fired him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know what the story was there, but I don't.
And like, if it's just Ron Howard, and he has to deal with like what's already been made, like I said, there's not much for him to fuck up, because he is a really good director, especially visually. So if he just has to oversee special effects getting done, he's perfectly fine to do that. Unless he's like rewriting the whole movie and they're secretly shooting like a whole nother movie.
We're gonna throw $400 million into this Han Solo movie.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, that's a weird. Now that Disney owns that could go. I mean, I think people forget how much bad came out of Star Wars. Yeah, or they don't forget. They absolutely remember. because I think with like the last the episode 8 or whatever, everyone was just like just a sigh of relief, like, oh, thank God this isn't terrible. And then Rogue One turned out to be really good. But yeah, if they're gonna crank these out one a year, yeah, they're gonna have some turkeys.
Well, I
'Cause
think.
Ryan, what's his name? Ryan Reynolds, the guy who's doing the 9th one.
I mean Ryan. I think it's Ryan Johnson,
Yeah, the guy who did Looper.
or
He-
was it Ryan? Shit,
Something.
Ryan. Yeah, I think it's Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, because a bunch of people were like, yeah, see, Disney's fucking it up. They fucked those guys out of their movie, and they're gonna fuck up your movie. And he basically went on Twitter and said, Disney gave me full creative control over this movie. No one's fucking it up for me. And so there's people out there that just hate Disney, and they're like, oh, see, they're gonna steal our childhood from us.
I know there's also been some stuff around like the Marvel movies, where there's a lot of directors who are like supposed to direct and write things, and apparently it never happened, like the Edgar Wright thing. And it seems like the producers, like they know with all those Marvel movies, they know what movie they're making, and they know what's gonna sell, and they know what people are gonna like. So it's almost become a very producer heavy production, where the director doesn't really have a whole lot to say. It's almost like TV.
Yeah.
Where it's like the director just comes in there and just like makes sure things get shot, rather than like, hey, what's with the story? And they don't have a whole lot of involvement or special effects. Like, no, we're doing this and you're gonna do it.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know.
Because the producers have been on all these movies. Like, look, we made almost $1 trillion here. We think we know what we're doing.
Well, I know that the movie industry is becoming more and more risk averse because they're heading for their worst year ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not going to do anything that hasn't been done before.
No, supposedly, I mean, they're heading to I don't think it's their worst year ever, unless it's like total attendance. But it's like, it's just not going to be as much as last year, which is like the biggest year ever.
Oh, I've heard it's way down. Like,
yeah, no, it is, but like, it's not
there.
it's not like there's still movies making $100 million in a weekend.
oh yeah. Because what did I read? Let me see if I can call.
But yeah, like one
They're
of the
saying like it's like 2000. Oh yeah, here it is, like 2006 all over again.
yeah.
Which was like the low point in a long time. Because it's actually what's generated all these sequels and reboots was 2006, because they lost more money than ever that year.
Well, and this should generate the opposite of it, because like all the movies coming out this year are remakes, reboots, or whatnot. It's like Dunkirk is your only original movie.
Well, that's I think they're
Baby Driver.
I think they're hinting that that's the problem, is everything's just a reshoot now or a remake.
Yeah, so if that's the problem, then like original content is the solution.
I don't know.
Yeah, otherwise,
When you look at something like Alien Covenant, which like could have been good, but it's like, oh, this is what we're doing now. I think they need to stop making the Alien movies, as much as I like them.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
they need to stick to the original Alien formula instead of fucking trying their own shit and doing all this goddamn backstory to it.
Yeah, well,
no, there's nowhere to go forward with that. That's why they go back with it.
yeah, there's no story to. I mean, the only big like, what would it be? Who's the guy? Who's the director? Like the guy who did Aliens. The only big James Cameron blockbuster you could make out of the Alien franchise is maybe like the aliens finally come to Earth, and I mean, you'd have to do something like that because they've kind of painted themselves in a corner.
Which that was supposed to be like the original ending to Resurrection, is aliens on Earth.
Yeah.
But then apparently that movie tanked, and they're like, oh, never mind. Because it was actually shot, they just cut it out of the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a weird. That was a cool movie, but it was a weird fucking movie.
Yeah.
No,
It was one of those.
It was directed by a French guy, and it was a Joss Whedon script. So.
And you're watching it, and you're like, I like this, but this is weird. I'm not liking this for the same reason I like the other movies.
That's when I found out about Orange Screen.
Okay.
Which I think they also used for in Star Trek to shoot their special effects stuff. Because there's different reasons you use blue screen and green screen. Because it depends on like what the principal color of what you're shooting is, so that if you take out the blue or you take out the green, it's not also taking out the color of whatever object your special effects thing is.
Okay.
So like being that with Aliens, being that it was like mostly all black, they used orange screen for some reason because it made it stand out more.
Huh.
When you keyed out the orange or whatever. So it worked better that way, yeah. And so I think for some reason they did that on Star Trek: The Next Generation. They used like an orange screen because I think it's not because it was a blue ship. If you took orange out and if you used a blue screen, it would just also deleted the Enterprise. And then if you used a green screen, it would have like taken some of the green out of the blue. But they use an orange screen because then when you erase it, it doesn't key out any of the color on the ship.
It's a cloaking device. Enterprise disappeared, but everyone's acting as if they could see it. Yeah, hooked up cloaking device. Speaking of Star Trek, anyone heard any more about the Discovery show, or the what's it called?
Yeah, just Discovery. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any more. I just seen the trailer.
Yeah.
I just feel kind of disappointed that the guy who's heads up American Gods and like Hannibal, that apparently he was supposed to be the producer, and that's what happened to him. Like originally it was originally they were working on that, and then like they got rid of him or whatever. They couldn't meet eye to eye, and then they just made a new one.
Yeah.
It was like, I want to see his Star Trek, but like wonder what the fuck happened there. But
I don't know. It's weird.
But yeah, it'll probably be a train wreck, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's going to be like the Dark Tower. It's like, wow, this looks cool, but it's going to fail.
Well, it's just because it's on CBS, right? And it's
I don't even know if it's on CBS or it's just on their CBS online service. I've heard different things about it.
it's on CBS, but
Okay.
I mean, it looks expensive enough, so it has to be on CBS. But like sci-fi shows just never seem to. I can't think of many sci-fi shows, except for maybe Fox, that works on network television.
And remember, Fox are the people who canceled Firefly, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like X-Files. Like, okay, it works
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that works.
And it's like Lost is kind of a sci-fi show, but not exactly. It's more about the people, and then here's some sci-fi shit.
Yeah.
It's not really a sci-fi show. But like Battlestar Galactica, that's a fucking sci-fi show. Like Farscape, that's a fucking sci-fi show. And those shows, pretty much the only way they can happen is if they're on cable, because that's where the weird audiences go to go watch those shows. Like nobody comes to see, because like Supergirl, it was on CBS and it didn't work there, so then they put it on the CW, and now it's fine. It's like, why? I don't get it.
I don't know. I don't understand. Yeah, we'll see. Not too enthusiastic, not too hopeful. I just hope.
I mean, I'll watch it. I just
I just hope Dunkirk's good. Dunkirk and Valerian. I want those to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want Valerian to be good as well, but I wish it would have been R instead of fucking PG-13. I think that's gonna hurt it.
Yeah, that's all money though. It just
Yeah, I know.
you want to go R,
I
half
know
your
what
budget
it's-
gone.
Yeah, I know what it's about, but at the same time, it's like Fifth Element was R. Come on.
What was an R-rated sci-fi movie that was out recently that did pretty good? There was Arrival R? No.
No.
Or was it?
It doesn't have anything enough.
I can't remember. I mean, there's nothing in that I can think of that would really make it an R unless they said fuck a couple times, but I don't think it was.
Maybe Covenant was R.
I mean, Covenant was R.
Yeah. I don't know how much money that's made though. Like I said, it wasn't bad, but compared to Prometheus, it was great. But have you seen watch the final season of The Leftovers?
No, I still haven't finished season 2.
Oh, okay.
I've heard things.
It's
I
pretty.
haven't paid attention to what people are saying, but I keep hearing people start to say something about Leftovers, and I just immediately go away. It's like, I don't want to know yet. I have not caught up.
It's
That's a hard show to get back into. It's like, well, I know this is gonna be depressing.
yeah, it's cryptic. It becomes a lot more Lostish as it goes along. You can definitely see that lost DNA in it. But and then the end is like 30 years from now they meet up and it's like, oh, we're gonna finally figure out. Nope, Nope, we're not going to figure it out.
Would you ever watch that Netflix movie? Was it called The Discovery? Where they discover like there is a life, there's an afterlife. Like they scientifically prove it.
I don't think it's out yet, is it?
Yeah, it's out. It's on
One with
Netflix.
Redford in it where everyone's killing themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was out yet. Okay, I'll
Yeah, it
watch.
came out like 3 months ago.
Shit, dude, I'm just so out of the loop. I'm spending 8 hours a day refinishing furniture. I'm not
Yeah.
catching anything. I mean, I haven't even finished reading Seven Eves yet, and
Oh,
I have
okay.
all the time in the world. But for some reason, I do. Dad recommended I listen to that book about Hamilton, so that's what I've been doing. Because it's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. But yeah, I'm still way behind. And then I got sucked into the Neil Asher universe, and I think I've read everything he's written now. So that's what I'm reading. Oh. So Andrew, I heard you finally saw They Live.
Yes.
What'd you think?
Thought the action scene in like near the end or the middle was really drawn out and unnecessary and poorly choreographed, but
It's the longest fight scene in movie history, isn't it?
No, he said at the end. Are you talking about like the gunfight in the alley?
no, not the fight where they try to put the sunglasses on the
Oh, yeah.
That's the most famous part of that movie.
Well, I know that's what Matt said I was watching. I'm like, really? Not the chew bubblegum and kick ass line, not the, not just the.
It's all
old baby
famous,
sign.
but
You know,
yeah.
No, I know. The whole movie actually was good. I liked the whole quality of the movie, like for how much it probably would cost to make and how, low budget it was and everything. Like it seemed like it was actually well made. I mean, the acting's acting for a B movie, but at the same time, like it was good. It's still very poignant. Topic for even today's time. It was basically still talking about like, hey, the people in power want to keep us down and make us worry about all this insignificant shit while they fuck us over angle. Except for the whole
That hasn't changed.
and aliens from another planet with a gateway, like a weird airport terminal thing and black. I don't know. Like there's a couple of things in there where it's like, especially during the fight scene where it's like doing like all these like hair pull like headlocks. I'm like, that's from fucking wrestling. Nobody'd ever do that in a real fight. They got fucking somebody grab by the hair and like pull them around and shit.
Well, like Nathan talked about, like you said, that Roddy Piper didn't know how to act, and fucking what's his name, Keith David didn't know much about like stunt work and wrestling. And so basically he showed him how to do stunt stuff, and then he taught him how to act. And so like they worked together on this whole fight scene, because I don't think like the stunt coordinator like coordinated this fight. Like they worked on it themselves like this whole time, like in their off time. And then they came to John Carpenter. Was like, we have this fight scene, and then John Carpenter just loved it so much he didn't edit one fucking frame of the fight scene.
Yeah. When John Carpenter says he loves what you're doing, that usually means there's going to be no John Carpenter input into. That's the very Ed Wood part of John Carpenter. Like, perfect.
It was funny though. There's like one part in this. I mean, the whole script is kind of like, yeah, it's not gonna win an Oscar for best writing, but like there's one line where they're all in like the safe house meeting before they get ambushed, where it was like, this is the resistance. We need to recruit more members and get our message out there and really spread. I'm like, nobody thought that was the idea in the first place. It was like, that's the whole part of resistance. You spread and become underground and just keep recruiting new members, not just keep fucking dying in droves or whatever you're doing. I don't know what you thought the resistance was, but usually that's the best part of trying to organize underground resistance.
We kept it a secret all the way to the end of the resolution.
It's just like, wow,
Nobody knew about the underground. Not even the underground.
Because it's just like, oh, we just keep losing members. Why? We should really recruit. Like, no shit. Like, and then just the unexplained, like, she's, the woman that Colin showed me that was in the cashier in fucking Twin Peaks. That was the
Green-eyed lady.
Yeah, the really weird looking. She looked like 50 in that movie, and she looks even older, obviously, in Twin Peaks now. Like whatever, how many years later from whatever they lived.
Well, she's probably close to 70 now. So.
But I mean, she's just like, yeah, another person that couldn't really act worth a shit. But also, it's just like, yeah, just like, oh, she kind of didn't know where to go, and everybody's getting shot around her, and then all of a sudden she betrays him in the movie for no apparent reason. It's like, we can't win. Like, yes, we can. Then he blows her away with a little tiny pocket revolver. Like, and then he blows a whole satellite dish up with one, too. It's like, yeah, bullshit. But.
Well, I mean, the whole movie's kind of a political farce anyway, so.
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, okay. At least he's willing to sacrifice himself, I guess. And then just the end.
It basically just ends on a joke.
Yeah.
But no,
We call that the George Carlin of the Carpenter universe. Is very message heavy with weird humor mixed in with unlikely scenarios. But I'm glad you saw that. I remember I watched that movie a bunch.
It inspired him to buy Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Yep. Led to that classic.
Well, no, he bought it.
Oh, Andrew bought that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's arriving on a dual
What?
a dual disc or movie DVD with like a what was it, like Oblivion 4 or something like that.
Okay, that's a terrible movie.
No, I know they're both yeah.
Wait, what's the other movie?
Oblivion 4.
I've never even seen Oblivion 1, 2, or 3.
I'm thinking of Phantasm Oblivion. I don't know what Oblivion is.
I don't know either. It was just that was the only way you could get it. Otherwise, it was a region-coded Blu-ray for.
Well, I remember that was the How Did This Get Made podcast did an episode on Hell Comes to Frogtown. That was a really good episode because that movie sounds fucking ridiculous.
Well,
Also, like if you look at the film history of the director, that guy, he makes these weird movies that are like kind of like apocalyptic spoofs with like amphibians in the title. So one of my favorite titles of his is Toad Warrior.
No, I think shit. Matt was telling me something about how that movie got made too, and I don't remember what he said now. Had to be something with like something or like either Rowdy or oh god, I can't ever fucking say his name.
Roddy
Yeah.
Piper.
Yeah, him. Like either working for free or like raising money somehow to like fucking fund that movie or some shit. But I can't remember how exactly that movie came to be either, because he was talking about it. But the only other movie I've seen recently, because I bought the autopsy for Jane Doe with Emil Hirsch and what's his name, the older guy that plays his dad in that movie.
I don't think I remember that one.
Oh, it was a horror movie that came out in 2016 that was like a more independent movie.
Oh, okay.
It's actually kind of well written and actually not bad considering.
Oh, speaking of Sasquatch, has anyone seen the Bobcat Goldthwait movie about Sasquatch, the serious one?
No.
Found footage movie.
Serious one.
Well, I mean, it's not a funny movie.
How recently was this?
Hold on. Information is coming my way.
Is it one of his latest movies?
Yeah. It's like a couple years.
The last one I saw of his was
God Bless America.
Yeah, I'm doing
it
Grease
might
a
have
lot.
been that one, or there might have been another one.
Greatest Dad.
Was it?
World's Greatest Dad and God Bless America was some of his
No, I
last
think
two.
he did one more after that.
Um,
Wait, did he direct? Shit, I can't. Edge of 17. Did he direct that one, or was that somebody else?
no, he didn't do that one.
That might have been. Yeah, this must have been somebody else.
Willow Creek. It was in 2013.
That sounds familiar.
The found footage movie about Sasquatch. I some people say it's good.
Huh. What was his latest movie?
Well, his latest one is his latest documentary is about Bigfoot,
Oh.
called American Bigfoot. And then he did a TV series called Those Who Can't. True TV. I don't know anything about it.
That's about teachers.
And then he directed a bunch of Marin episodes.
Yeah. He's he's a pretty prolific TV director too.
Yeah, I just wondered if anyone knew if that was any good.
I vaguely remembered it, but
I just remember the only thing I know about him was his. I think he was on. Was it Joe Rogan or whatever? But he talked about his family and how just like a bunch of hillbillies.
it's not a surprise.
from upstate New York, from somewhere in New York. They're just a bunch of New York hillbillies.
Just Appalachian hillbillies. Huh?
Yeah. Well, anyway, anyone else have anything to add about that?
No, all I remember from Bobcat Goldthwait when he came to town a couple of years ago is he didn't mention any Sasquatch films or anything because somebody had kept yelling out movies he was in, like God Bless America or World's Greatest Dad, like stuff he either directed or started, and nobody mentioned any of the Sasquatch stuff. So, because even when somebody mentioned God Bless America, which at that point I thought was his most recent film, he was like, "Yeah, nobody saw that," or whatever. It's like his two people went like, "Woo!" But yeah, with Colin, I think he directed something else sooner, like an actual movie, not a TV show, but.
I watched World's Greatest Dad about 75% of the way through, and I just had to turn it off. So. Because that was after Robin Williams died, and it was just sad. It was just like, oh fuck, this is too much like real life.
Yeah, that's what dark comedies do. I thought.
Yeah, some of the dark comedies get too dark. Too painful. So anyway, we watched a movie this week, or Conlon did. This is one of the mailer movies that Conlon sent me. I get a package from Amazon. It has 3 Criterion movies in it. It has Thief, Walker, and what was the other one? The Blowout. All 3 of them are great movies that I've never seen. The most dense one was probably Walker. Actually, the most watchable one was Blowout. It was a pretty cool movie. But this week we're going to talk about Thief, which was a movie I've seen about 4 times and always remembered.
I think you've recommended it to me a bunch. And at some point, it was on Netflix to watch. And then when we go to look it up, nothing could be found.
Yeah, just a really expensive Criterion. Well, I mean, not too expensive.
It would have been expensive for both of us to buy all of them. That's why I just mailed them to your house and then you brought them to me.
Yeah. But this was a great movie from 1981.
Yeah.
And
I thought this was something Michael Mann did like after Miami Vice, but this was before Miami Vice.
This was Michael Mann's first movie, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Because I believe he had directed or at least written and produced episodes of Starsky and Hutch. So
okay.
He knew how to do some shit.
Mostly coke.
But yeah, it was and I heard you talked about the soundtrack, and the soundtrack was done by Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
Which I thought, because it's Michael Mann, I thought it would have been full of licensed music or something, because he likes to do that. And then I was surprised that this is pretty much all score, but it's all just it's all a synthesizer score.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't know it was that. I mean, the music's good. I just wasn't expecting it to be all synthesizer. Because
go ahead.
Like in Manhunter, he uses licensed music, and one of the most famous scenes of Miami Vice when he uses that Phil Collins song,
right,
"In the Air of the Night." So yeah, it's like Michael Mann. It's he always uses a lot of licensed music. So yeah, I was surprised by it, and and also how it is. And this is before I read the liner notes. Is the opening scene where it's just raining down. The fire escapes on the side of building, and then you have that synthesizer soundtrack. I was like, holy shit, this is Blade Runner.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And this predates Blade Runner.
Blade Runner by 3 years. And really some of the photography and stuff, some of the ideas for this movie were all formulated in 1979.
Yeah.
It just took him a while to get, because no studio wanted to take a chance on this new director who basically said he wants to make a noir crime film. It's oh, okay, that was kind of a challenge. But the soundtrack to this movie is very divisive because I enjoy it, but this is the first movie to have a synthesizer soundtrack in it. First one.
Okay, huh?
and it got a Razzie Award for it. People either love the soundtrack to this movie or they hate it. And Tangerine Dream went on to do a lot of. They did a very. Their best known one was probably Risky Business. It was the Screwing on a Train. That's not what it was called, but that's essentially where the Tangerine Dream came in. Was when he had sex with that prostitute on the train. But they also did the soundtrack for The Keep, another great Michael Mann nobody knows about.
I never knew Tangerine Dream and still vaguely just know about them, but the first they came to my knowledge is as a obscure Mystery Science Theater 3000 reference.
Yeah,
because there's a part in the movie Mystery Science Theater the movie where in This Island Earth where they're like. There was a part where they're being held in stasis pods as they go to light speed or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And like it's like there's like this orange glow on them, and he's like, "Oh, time to turn on the Tangerine Dream music." I had no idea what the fuck they were talking about.
Yeah, Tangerine Dream is what they describe themselves as a German techno punk band. People don't, they're not. They're a German band. It was kind of avant-garde. Moody background music. That's what they didn't sing. They just used a lot of synthesizers and made a lot of moody music, which viewing this movie today or when I even saw it when I was younger, I thought it was a cool soundtrack, but it's really divisive. Some people love it. Some people hate it. The studio wanted to go with a more traditional soundtrack because they thought, oh, this is weird. Like, who's going to listen to this? But you can see Miami Vice in this. You can see all his later stuff in this movie. But at that time, it was kind of jarring because this movie was a weird stepchild. Because, I mean, you've seen like The French Connection and a lot of those 70s, those real gritty crime movies.
Yeah.
Like, this was kind of that. And then it was kind of it was the new thing in the 80s, which they called neon noir instead of neo noir, where it's a lot of like neon lighting and everything shot at night. And rain was a constant element in this too, like you said, with Blade Runner. And they actually had because most of this was shot in California, but it was supposed to be Chicago.
Yeah.
They had a lot of, they had a truck that was always spraying everything down with water to make it look like it was raining all the time.
Yeah.
Which that was, I mean, this movie had a great look to it. Even though the cars and some of the technology in this movie horribly dates it. I mean, it's a 1980s movie too.
Yeah. Well, it's not early 1980s movie, so it's almost like a 70s movie.
Right. And it was a bomb at the box office when it first came out. Now it's like, oh, what is the thing here? It's Box Office Mojo. Oh, it's like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, like 99% or 98% on IMDb. So, like in retrospect, a lot of people liked it.
Yeah.
But at the time it came out, it was almost overlooked. James Caan said this was his second favorite movie after The Godfather.
Okay.
He really liked this movie.
Yeah, we watched 2 James Caan movies in a row. Well, I did.
Yeah, he said he really liked this movie. He liked he did a lot of work with the character in this. Michael Mann gave him a lot of latitude.
Yeah, that was kind of the unexpected thing about this movie is like I was kind of thinking because like having watched Heat and like a lot of Michael Mann stuff, I was thinking this would be more like a technically focused, robbery movie, and like it still does all that stuff, but like a lot of this movie is spent on the character. And like everything about it. It's like it's almost more just about. It's called Thief, so it's about this one guy, and it's more about his character and how it involves that. So.
Yeah.
Because like you think from the opening, I was like, oh, this guy's like a seasoned thief or something like that, and like this is just what he does, and he's good at his job. And you find out like, no, he spent like most of his life in prison.
Yeah.
And Willie Nelson's character basically taught him how to be a thief, and then he got out and was making up for lost time.
Yeah, he's a very like almost Tony Soprano like guy because he owns all these businesses.
Yeah.
And what's funny in this movie, I mean, this movie's we'll just get this out of the way right now. This movie's super dated. It just because like every time he goes into one of his businesses, like he's waiting for a phone call, and
yeah.
Cars are these giant boats. and the technology is laughably primitive, and it's like, oh, you got to call this number and say a code word. It's like, well, no one does that shit anymore, but back then it was probably cool. But yeah, this so like this movie doesn't hold up super good, but the production values and the look of it are awesome.
Yeah.
And,
well, and also the attention to detail, because even though they have all this dated technology, they are like figuring out like real ways that these need to be defeated.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of everything in the movie was real. Did you listen to the commentary?
No, not yet.
Okay, it's pretty interesting. I did some other research on it though. Everything in the movie's real. Like that opening scene, which was actually those were the last scenes filmed where he's breaking into the safe to steal the jewels in the place in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's actually how you break into one of those safes. That's like not a bunch of props and shit, because they hired real criminals and technical advisors to like, how do you do this and how would you film it? Because that drill he puts on the safe or whatever, he says in the commentary, he's like, that thing weighed 200 fucking pounds. And he goes, what you do with a drill like that, because that's called like a that's a hydraulic drill. It's basically it's a super powerful drill that and what you do with that, is he was explaining, is like you're drilling through 3.5 inches of cold rolled steel, and then there's a copper plate behind that. But you have to, the reason he was feeling the drill and the reason he was, he had his hand on, because it was basically like a drill press but inverted, and it magnet locked to the front of the drill. The reason you do that is there's a copper plate behind it that's designed to just foul your drill bit, so you have to feel the minute you get through the cold rolled steel, and then lower the RPMs on the drill so you can twist right through the copper and then expose the mechanism that's holding the bar from releasing the door. And he says that, guys told him how to do that, and that's what they filmed. And so, when he was doing all that shit, he says it was compressed and edited for time, but he actually broke into that safe. It was a $6,000 safe the studio paid for and the prop department came up with, but they're like, yeah, you got to break into this fucker and it's got to look real. Yeah, it was only compressed for time, because it takes like hours to drill through something like that. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, all the stuff they did in the movie looked really cool. Oh, and all the guys that were cops, those were all the criminals that were technical advisors on the film, which explains a lot of the bad, weird acting in the interrogation room and stuff. Because all those guys were just criminals that Michael Mann hired. And the Willie Nelson dialogue, remember when he was talking about the quality of prisoners they're getting now? It's like, these people would be in mental asylums, and then you got the pedophiles, and it's like, I can't believe the kind of convicts they have now. That was actually based on a letter Michael Mann got from a real prisoner about what prison is like. Because the Willie Nelson thing never developed, and I was hoping for more when I first saw that. I was like, oh, are these guys going to hook up, and is he going to get him out of jail? But he's not. But I did like how the judge and everything, they were doing all these hand signals to like, how much of a bribe will you give me to let this guy out of prison? And that was definitely old school, but that's the 70s part of this movie.
Yeah, I thought he was mocking him at first. I was like, oh no, that's the payoff.
Yeah, that's the.
He does this thing where he's like, the guy does like this on his face.
Yeah.
He's like, what can we do? And then the judge goes, I don't know. What can we do? That's like, they're like, $4,000? No, $6,000. And then James Caan hands him $10,000. Like, oh shit! Here, buy you an extra suit.
Yeah, there's a lot of good scenes like that in the movie. Like when he confronts the guys that pushed the dude out of the window that they were trying to sell the stolen diamonds to. When he goes to the plating company, he just sets the chair next to the desk and pulls out a 45. He's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Are you stupid or something?" I mean, it's like great James Caan acting. There's a lot of great scenes in this movie. The robbery scenes are cool, but the interstitial dialogue between all the characters, some of it's sort of clunky, but a lot of it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I like how the James Caan character speaks directly to people. He's like, I'm not going to waste my time repeating myself. I'm just going to say this once and you're going to understand it. Which was it was great. I mean, this whole movie was excellent. What else was it? What else did I pull out of the? I have my
I like the name of
commentary.
the lead actress that has like the strangest name, Tuesday Weld.
She's a very famous actress from the 60s. She was like a supermodel in the 60s.
Yeah.
Tuesday Weld, Wednesday Grind.
What were some other things? I had a whole bunch of notes on this movie because this is a movie I like to watch. Oh, this movie has the coolest original poster ever that for some reason is not on the Criterion DVD.
Yeah, I saw like the poster they have in our movie database is like it's like everything's on fire and you see like the fire in his glasses.
Yeah. It's like a guy standing there with welding glasses on.
Yeah.
And
Case of the Criterion,
yeah, which I thought was a great movie poster. So great, I'm gonna buy one.
Usually the Criterion stuff they usually don't use the material that was. They usually don't use the posters. They usually like use different things on the Criterion collections. I'm not sure why, but that's kind of what they do. Because like the cover for Blowout, like that's not what the poster
okay.
looked like.
I've never seen any other posters for Blowout, so
Yeah.
I didn't.
I think the actual like poster for Blowout is just like this weird black and white image of John Travolta, and it just says Blowout.
Oh, okay.
For like Criterion Collection, it's like him sitting around all this like these editing bays and audio stuff.
This movie had a lot of first-time actors in it. James Belushi, this was his first movie.
Jim
Belushi.
Oh wait, yeah. Well, I guess the same thing. Never mind.
Yeah, James Belushi, Jim Belushi. Dennis Farina was in this first movie. That was right after he quit being a cop in Chicago. And the guy who played the mob leader, who was like 52 years old, it was his first movie.
Oh, it was? Shit. Okay. Yeah,
Leo.
Yeah, you've seen that. I mean, you've seen that guy in things before. I didn't know it was his first movie.
Yeah, he's been around a lot, but that was his first movie.
Huh.
Who else was this the first thing they did? Well, Tuesday Weld, it was the first thing she'd done in a while.
I mean, had Willie Nelson ever acted before this?
I think they said he was in one more thing before this. Let me look.
Yeah. A chubbier, younger Jim Belushi in this movie.
He was in the Electric Horseman.
Okay.
Which is a Robert Redford, like weird late 70s movie. And the guy who wrote this book, it was called Home Invaders. That guy was in prison because they wanted to consult him because he was actually one of these guys too. They wanted to consult with him. It's like, oh, he's in prison right now because he was robbing people.
Yeah, I didn't know this was based on a book, so that was.
Yeah, it was based on a book about safe cracking.
Okay.
Which is
was it fictional or just like here's a how-to operation?
I couldn't find it anywhere except like a used paperback on Amazon for like $25. So I was going to read it because I like this movie so much, but I just couldn't find it anywhere where I was willing to pay for it. So, this had the coolest robbery scenes, and really there was only two of them.
Yeah. But they're very detailed. So
yeah, the first one and the last one. And the last one,
that poster on an movie database, I thought because they're talking about the safe, and he's like, oh, it's got to be a burn job, and so from that poster, I thought he was gonna like. Everything was going to get set on fire during the robbery, and then when they were doing the thing, like they had the flamethrower or the fire extinguisher, I was like, I don't know how to do this right. It's only when it comes to the end where he's destroying everything. It was like, oh, that's kind of where this comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah, the last safe job was that was like a really amazingly detailed, an interesting application of an actual heavy-duty demolition tool.
Yeah, explain it to Andrew and what the scene is.
Well, in the last movie, they have this giant safe, and it's protected by, it has electrical, and it's just physically imposing safe. but they use what's called I don't know. I've heard it called many things, but an oxy lance is a trade name. It's actually a thermal lance.
Yeah.
And what it is it's a piece of rod that you're shooting oxygen through from the back through an oxygen container, and it's usually made out of steel and aluminum, because aluminum, if you ignite it, it gets super hot when you blow pure oxygen across it. So they're basically heating this rod up that gets up to like 5,500 to 7,200 degrees, and they're trying to burn through a giant safe door.
And it's like a 10-foot long rod.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's essentially it's a demolition tool, and they can also use it for other things. I've seen them used at work twice. They're pretty spectacular, but they would have never really used that to do that in the movie, because they would have set off every fucking fire alarm in the building. And it also would have taken because somebody analyzed this movie and they said it would have taken like 25 bottles of pure oxygen to burn through that door. But other than that, like using the fire extinguisher and stuff, that was a nice touch, because it did add an element. Because you realistically, you couldn't use one of those to break into a safe, because if you could, everyone would. And but they produce just because they're just basically vaporizing metal at such a rapid rate that you need like full gas masks and stuff to tolerate it. But it's a really cool scene in this movie, because when they finally burn through the safe door and they're using a fire extinguisher as they go, I like how he just props the chair down. He's like, "Yep, job done." And they steal like millions of dollars worth of diamonds and stuff out of this safe. But they James Caan really hurt himself making this movie too. He crushed his hand in the sea. Remember when they take the big giant grinder and cut through the roof of the place in California?
Yeah.
When he sticks the pry bar in there to pry that up, again, they actually did that. No special effects there, but it came back down and crushed his hand. So yeah, he actually got hurt doing that. But yeah, when they were using this, when they were on the set burning through that safe, they had to clear the set like 4 or 5 times in an hour, because it was creating so much smoke they couldn't even film. So, but it was a really effective scene in a great movie. And then the end of the movie, when he burns all his businesses down, yeah, that special effect where they blew up Leo's house, they actually destroyed that house. Got in trouble for that, because the explosive they used was way bigger than what they needed to blow because they're just trying to blow basically a fascia off the front of a fake house.
Yeah.
There's a real house behind it. Well, it cracked the foundation in the real house. And they ran into some trouble with the guy that owned the property over that. They got dragged through the courts a little bit. But, in the end, it's a great movie. Great actors. Kind of sort of weird dialogue, but also believable in a certain way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like that Quentin Tarantino thing. It's like, do people really talk like this? Yeah, sometimes. People have conversations like this. It's like the scene with him in the diner, which that goes on for 12 minutes with him and Tuesday Weld are arguing back and forth.
Yeah.
Because that's the interesting thing about the James Caan character in this movie. We can talk about the characters now, because they're very important. This movie is 2 hours, and how long is the Criterion? 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Let me see here. Oh yeah, I forgot it was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer.
I didn't know that.
124 minutes, so 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
And there's some scenes added back in, like that scene where he's like in the morning with that guy fishing. Like that wasn't the original. They added that back in.
That weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Like obviously in front of a screen.
Yeah.
Sort of having a cool conversation in a moment.
Yeah.
I sort of like that in a weird way. But yeah, the James Caan character is basically a really smart but emotionally vacant guy who wants this normal life with this woman so bad. It's like, we're gonna have a wife, we're gonna have we're gonna get married, we're gonna have a kid.
Well, there's like, we'll give us some backstory. So like, I guess he grew up in like group homes and stuff like that, because he mentions that later on when they try to adopt a kid.
Yeah.
And like when he was like 15 or 17 or something like that, he gets busted for stealing $40, but he didn't really steal $40. They just accused him of it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they send him to jail for like a couple of years or something like that. And then while defending himself in jail, he ends up hurting a cop who then dies later. Well, not a cop, a guard who dies like later on, like after the guard leaves the position on a pension or whatever. So then they get him for manslaughter. So he's in there for what, like 17 years or something?
It's something crazy. He's not out of prison till he's in his 20s.
Yeah, so that's like, and that's where he meets Willie Nelson and learns about like the whole like how to break into safes and stuff like that. So he's not like a career criminal or anything like that. He's just pretty much in jail his entire life. And then while in jail, he creates this collage of what he wants for his life, like things he wants, like was like a car dealership, kids, and things like that or whatever.
Yeah, bar.
And so that's why he does like these high profile robberies. Is like he's trying to make up for lost time. Like that's the only way he can get these things. He's a fucking criminal, so nobody will give him any kind of chance unless he just has the money he gets from crime.
Yeah, but he's a damaged person. I mean, this isn't like a super criminal or a cool guy, like a slick criminal. It's like, oh, this guy's got a lot of baggage, and you can tell. And Tuesday Weld has a lot of baggage too. She doesn't go into a lot of detail about her life, but she's like, I have a normal life now, like implying there was another life, maybe where she was a prostitute or something like that.
Or she was dating some drug dealer or something. Or...
Yeah. So there seemed to be a lot of that in there. And then, of course, his conversations with the Willie Nelson character were interesting. Because that guy dies of a heart attack. Because remember, they says that they were talking about, like, it's really important you don't die in prison. Like, that's the one thing you don't do.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that kicks things up a notch, because he tells him he's dying, so he's like trying to get him out of jail, and that's where he bribes the judge.
Yeah.
But that's also, he's talking about this girl. His name's Okla. That's Willie Nelson's character. He tells him about this girl, and then he tells him that he should tell her the truth. So that's where you get this weird diner scene where he like drags her to the diner because he was like an hour late to meet her at a bar.
Yeah, at the country western bar or something.
Yeah, and she's pissed off at him, and he like basically just like forces her into his car, takes her to a diner, and basically tells her that he's a thief. And then he wants kids, and she's like, I can't have kids. Like, well, Doc, fuck it.
And then in comes Leo, who's like an organized crime figure, but a weird one because he's not really, doesn't seem like a badass. He seems like a kind of a doddering old man in a way.
Yeah.
But he also says horrible shit all the time. And basically, James Caan is an independent contractor who doesn't work with the mobs because he doesn't have like a 40 or 60% take off everything he does. But Leo is kind of his entree into like really big, high stakes. Like, because what are they robbing in California? Is that like the state payroll, or why do those people have so much money?
He only robs diamonds.
Yeah, but what was I forget. There was some way like he connected him with that diamond heist. It would be the biggest diamond heist ever when they burned through the safe. I can't remember all the talk about it, but
I can't. Yeah, I thought it was like some collected thing where it's like it was like 4 different people all bought this one safe to keep all their shit safe. So that's why there's so many fucking diamonds in there or whatever.
That could be. I missed some dialogue, but I know Leo becomes a particularly evil character.
Because the only reason they meet up is that, so he like gives his guy these diamonds, and then they're supposed to he just hands it off to him. He's like, and he's supposed to get his money later on, and then like these mob guys throw him out the window, and he had his like $175,000 in cash on him when he went out the window, so now the cops have his money. And he's like, you owe me my money, and he didn't know he was talking to the mob at the time, and they give him his money, and they offer this more job opportunity.
Yeah, but then when he wants to collect from his California, and Leo also sets it up so he can have a kid,
I don't. I think they did the heist. The heist was in Chicago. They just like go to California afterwards.
Oh, I thought the heist was in California.
No, they just like head out to California because they want to move out to L.A. when they're done with everything.
Yeah, I know he wants to get away from this life.
Yeah, because like their house is bugged and shit like that, so they want to go to L.A. So this is like the pre thing.
Yeah.
Before they move to L.A., so they're gonna take a vacation out in L.A. while the heat dies down in Chicago, and they're waiting for their money to get all collected.
But then he finds out that Leo's like keeping most of his money, and he's only getting a certain amount. And he points a gun at Leo, and
Well, he doesn't point a gun. He just says he has a gun.
or he has a gun. Okay, I thought he pointed it at him.
Because later on he says like, "And you bring a gun to my house?"
Yeah, I like Leo's like evil dialogue. Like, you have a kid because I got him for you, and your wife, I'll have her out on the street. And he says, I'll have her getting fucked by, he says the N-word, and then he says, and Puerto Ricans. It's like he throws that, like some very specific stuff. And then they shoot Jim Belushi in the head and throw him in a vat of, nitric acid.
Well, no, he's already dead from a shotgun
He was already
blast.
dead. And they throw him in a vat of acid. It's like, look at your friend here. He's all fucked up. But it was a weird scene because they were shooting it from the perspective of James Caan, and that guy was just like over the camera saying all this shit. Then James Caan torches everything in his life.
Yeah, basically he's like, "Hey, you're gonna destroy everything?" Like, "No, I'm going to destroy everything." So he just destroys everything he has, just so he's the one that does it.
Yeah.
And he kicks Tuesday Weld out. He says, "You're leaving. You're not packing anything. You're just leaving."
Now, who had bugged his house?
The cops.
Was it the cops or the mob? I could never figure out who he was.
Well, I guess it could have been the mob too, but mostly because that's where he fakes the cops out because they have like a bug on his car, and then he puts the bug on a bus to Des Moines.
Yeah.
So like that's more known that the cops are bugging him, but it could have been the mob too.
Well, they're probably the same thing because when the cops approach him, they're not like, "Oh, we're going to arrest you for your crimes." They're like, "Oh, we want 30% of whatever you're taking." So, you never know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, they bring him into like the interrogation. They beat the shit out of him, and he's like, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you play this game? Like we know how much money you're making." Like basically, they're not arresting him. They know he's a criminal. They know he does, and they're just like, "You make a lot of money. We just want a part of it. Why aren't you playing ball with us?"
Yeah. It's not a like, "Hey, quit stealing." Part of this stuff. But yeah, all the cops in the movie were actual criminals. And we're not professional actors, and it kind of shows. Once you find that out, you're like, "Oh, okay." Because the guy who was the fat cop who was really in his face, that was the guy who taught him how to break into the safe in the original intro.
Okay.
That was that guy actually had done shit like that. So it was sort of interesting. I mean, it's a great movie. I love this movie. This is kind of like I like Thinking Criminals.
Yeah.
Because when I try to think about what I'm going to do after this whole economy collapses, this movies like this give me hope. It's like I could probably figure shit like that out. But I also like kind of I've always seen the James Caan character, and this is a hopeless character. He seems like a very emotionally vacant, hopeless person, but not because like he wants to be. It's because that's how he grew up.
Well, that's how he had to be in prison.
Yeah, he's just
what's his phrase? Like nothing means nothing or whatever, something like that.
Like
he just has to get to a point where nothing means anything anymore.
Yeah,
it's like time means nothing, life means nothing. And it's like the only way you could get through prison is if you had that attitude.
Yeah.
And so when he gets out, he has these hopes and dreams, but he also still has this survivalist mentality.
Yeah, like those dreams are kept on that little collage thing.
Yeah.
Like that's my secret world. Just the real world is nothing but crime and murder and mayhem and but yeah, this is a great movie. This is an overlooked class. I mean, Michael Mann movies in general are pretty good, but this is definitely an overlooked classic.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the soundtrack. I don't care what the Razzie people say. because the soundtrack when it starts, it sounds like, oh, this is like totally 80s. But then when it really gets like when they're driving the cars away and it gets into that deep kind of, it's like, oh, this is really cool. Because a lot of the scenes are shot. You see a lot of scenes with the cars driving, but then there's guys just in the car with windshield wipers going and lots of rain. And if you pay attention, they're driving very conservatively because they don't want to get picked up by the cops. Because remember, all the tools and scanning equipment goes into one car, and then he goes into another car, and then James Belushi gets into yet another car. So these guys are, they're trying to get away. There's a lot of methodology there that's really interesting to watch. So yeah, but that's my thoughts on Thief.
Find a way to watch it. We don't know how.
Get the Criterion. I've got 2 Criterion DVDs I'm going to buy. This one and Stalker.
Okay.
At some point, I don't know when. But at some point, I'm going to get both of these. Or actually, I don't know if I need to get this one.
Yeah, you've pretty much watched everything on it.
Yeah, I've watched, and I kind of have an eidetic memory for certain things in movies that I like. The things that I pick up on, I like. So, Andrew, you got to watch Thief. Borrow it from Conlon. Put it in your working Blu-ray player and watch it.
Okay.
You must do this.
No. I was gonna at some point borrow Blowout and Thief because
watch Blowout. That is a really
no. I've heard Blowout's a really good movie that nobody's
good
really
movie.
Seen, so.
I hadn't heard about it before Colin sent me the DVD. I mean, maybe we've talked about it.
I've seen it on a Watch Mojo list for like one of the top 10 underappreciated movies from good directors.
But then I watched it and I was like, why has no one heard of this fucking movie? This is a great movie. Everything about this movie is cool. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why nobody watched that. And then Walker, I don't know. Walker's a lot, of 1980s politics, but it's a good movie too. But we'll talk about this on other podcasts. We're going to tease our audience. So
this is what's to come.
Not you, because we're teasing.
All right. Well, did we have anything else?
Yeah, I think
we are done for the day.
I'm talked out this week for the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.